Good morning. Today is October 18th. It's a Tuesday and I am sleepy, but we are here and we are grateful that we are blessed to see another day. You guys know the deal by now. 9 a.m. we're reading the Bible. I do my own reading at I've been waking up. I set my alarm for 6:30 and I seem to not be able to get out of bed. I could. I'm just lazy. So I've been getting up around 7. I'm usually dressed and in this room. This is my daughter's room. She actually sleeps in my room, and so I've been using this room to to get closer with God every morning. So around 7:30 I'll be in here with the lights on and either some water or a cup of tea and just reading the Bible on my own and sitting and meditating and praying and starting the morning off talking to Jesus. And it's really, really nice to set the tone of your day by getting up, getting yourself ready, washing your face, getting dressed, spraying a little perfume, getting ready like you normally would, and then come and talk with Jesus and just start your day off with prayer and thankfulness and gratitude, and then open his book and see what he has for you that day. And it's been really great to start my mornings off like that. And I know by 9 a.m. some of you guys are already done with your morning routine, but I'm reading live 9 a.m. just so that you do get some of the word in if you haven't had a chance to yet. So every day, 9 a.m. we will be here reading through the book. We read all of Matthew. Now we're in Mark. And for any of you guys who have been following along, the stories in Matthew and Mark are very similar because they're two different people giving an account of the same stories. They were together, they witnessed the same thing. It's just like if something happened and you go and ask all your kids, tell me what happened. They're all going to tell you a similar story, but there might be minute differences. So it's still important to read each one of their stories, even though it sounds like you heard it already. So we're going to pick up at Mark chapter 5, verse 1. I'm reading the New Living Translation if you're following along. If you don't have a Bible, that is okay. Just listen. So they arrived at the other side of the lake in the region of the Gerasenes. When Jesus climbed out of the boat, a man possessed by an evil spirit came out from the tombs to meet him. This man lived in the burial caves and could no longer be restrained, even with a chain. Whenever he was put into chains and shackles, as he often was, he snapped the chains from his wrist and smashed the shackles. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Day and night he wandered among the burial caves and in the hills, howling and cutting him. Then the evil spirits begged him again and again not to send them to some distant place. There happened to be a large herd of pigs feeding on the hillside nearby. Send us into those pigs, the spirits begged. Let us enter them. So Jesus gave them permission. The evil spirits came out of the man and entered the pigs, and the entire herd of about 2,000 pigs plunged down the steep hillside into the lake and drowned in the water. The herdsmen fled to the nearby town and the surrounding countryside, spreading the news as they ran. People rushed out to see what had happened. A crowd soon gathered around Jesus, and they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons. He was sitting there, fully clothed and perfectly sane, and they were all afraid. Then those who had seen what happened told the others about the demon-possessed man and the pigs, and the crowd began pleading with Jesus to go away and leave them alone. As Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him, but Jesus said, "No, go home to your family and tell them everything the Lord has done for you, and how merciful he has been." So the man started off to visit the 10 towns of that region and began to proclaim the great things Jesus had done for him. And everyone was amazed at what he told them. Jesus got into the boat again and went back to the other side of the lake, where a large crowd gathered around him on the shore. Then a leader of the local synagogue, whose name was Jairus, arrived. When he saw Jesus, he fell at his feet, pleading fervently with him. "My little daughter is dying," he said. "Please come and lay your hands on her. Heal her so she can live." Jesus went with him, and all the people followed, crowding around him. A woman in the crowd had suffered for 12 years with constant bleeding. She had suffered a great deal from many doctors, and over the years she had spent everything she had to pay them. But she had gotten no better. In fact, she had gotten worse. She had heard about Jesus, so she came up behind him through the crowd and touched his robe. For she thought to herself, "If I can just touch his robe, I will be healed." Immediately, the bleeding stopped, and she could feel in her body that she had been healed of a terrible condition. Jesus realized at once that healing power had gone out from him, so he turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my robe?" His disciples said to him, "Look at this crowd pressing around you. How can you ask who touched me?" But he kept on looking around to see who had done it. Then the frightened woman, trembling at the realization of what had happened to her, came and fell to her knees in front of him and told him what she had done. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. Your suffering is over." While he was still speaking to her, messengers arrived from home of Jairus, the leader of the synagogue. They told him, "Your daughter is dead. There's no use troubling the teacher now." But Jesus overheard them and said to Jairus, "Don't be afraid, just have faith." Then Jesus stopped the crowd and wouldn't let anyone go with him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. When they came to the home of the synagogue leader, Jesus saw much commotion and weeping and wailing. He went inside and asked, "Why all this commotion and weeping? The child isn't dead, she's only asleep." The crowd laughed at him, but he made them all leave and took the girl's father and mother and the 3 disciples into the room where the girl was lying. Holding her hand, he said to the little girl, "Talitha koum," which means, "Little girl, get up." And the girl who was 12 years old immediately stood up and walked around. They were overwhelmed and totally amazed. Jesus gave them strict orders not to tell anyone what had happened, and then he told them to give her something to eat. So, we are going to end there. I know in Matthew we were reading 2 chapters a day, but because you've heard these stories, I want to slow down a little bit and just take it one bite at a time and do 1 chapter, because there's a lot here to sit with and reflect on. And everyone always talks about the woman of blood, so I don't want to talk about that right now, but you guys definitely meditate on that. But I do want to point out something, that while this whole story is going on, because this man came to Jesus and was like, "My daughter's dying," and so Jesus is walking to this little girl when this whole issue of the blood and the woman happens. Jesus never once ran. You don't see Jesus hear news and start running. Even when Jesus knew he's going to be nailed to a cross, he doesn't run. He doesn't run away, and he doesn't run to any of his destinations. He hears what's happening and he walks. And he prays. And he has faith. He keeps his faith. He doesn't worry. He's like, "Okay, this is what the situation is. I know God. I know what I am God, and I know what I'm capable of, and so there's no need to worry." I said I would heal. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go help this girl. That's fine. But I'm still going to walk and preach and pray and talk and have communion with people on my way. And so I think that's pretty cool, is that Jesus isn't in a rush. And so we shouldn't be either. We should be able to trust in him when we bring him a problem and walk it out with Jesus. Jesus is right here with you. He says that he is a friend of you. And so he's always going to be right here with you. And so tell him, lay it on him thick, and then just walk it out with him. He's not rushing, so you shouldn't be rushing either. Well, I'm not going to say what you should and shouldn't do, but personally, that's how I'm taking it, is that if Jesus can hear all this craziness that's happening in life and death situations and keep his calm and keep his faith and keep his peace and walk, then I'm going to trust in him and keep my calm and keep my peace and keep my faith and walk with him, because he calls himself my friend, and I know a friend is always going to show up in need, and Jesus is right here sitting on this live with us right now. And so I'm going to sit today with the thought that Jesus doesn't run. Jesus walks in the pain. Jesus walks in the suffering. Jesus walks in the unknown, because he knows all things. He knows that even though we don't know, we might not be hip to the whole picture, he is. So regardless of the hurt, the pain, the uncertainty that we have, we just got to trust him and walk alongside of him and trust that he is who he says he is, and that is a friend standing by us. In Matthew, it says that his yoke is easy to bear. Like I'm just going to find it really quickly because I don't want to mess up the words, but basically that he talks about being yoked with us and walking with us, and that when he is walking with us, any burden will be easier to bear. It says in Matthew 11:29, take my yoke upon you, let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light. When you remember, and my mom used to say, find someone who's equally yoked to me all the time growing up, and I was like, this lady's crazy, she's talking about egg yolks. It wasn't until my pastor from my church, River of Life, explained earlier this year that it actually hit me what that means. When there's on a farm, like back in the day, there used to be like 2 mules pulling something or 2 horses pulling something. When you see them together, there's something around their neck, and so that makes them equally yoked. If one thing is pulling this way and one thing is pulling this way, the car or whatever they're pulling is not going to get to the destination, because there's tension and they're going opposite ways. So you find the right mules or whatever it is, you put the yoke upon them, and when they walk together, the thing follows them steadily, whatever. So Jesus says, take my yoke upon you and let me teach you. For my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light. When you remember he's right there with you, when you're walking through stuff, you have more peace about it. You have more, that's it. You have more peace about it when you remember that Jesus is walking through it with you. So you don't have to rush. You don't have to run. You let him know what your issue is. He already knows, but you should still just verbalize it to God in conversation the same way you would to a friend, and then just trust him. And we're going to leave it there. We will be here tomorrow, 9 a.m. in Mark 6. I hope you guys have a blessed day. Bye.